The last couple days on the channel, I've done some spotlights on some teams that I think are overrated and underrated, and today I wanted to put a full spotlight on the Group of 5. There are not many channels or people that really talk about the Group of 5 much, and I admit I probably should talk about it more, but in today's video, I want to talk about 15 Group of 5 teams that I'm most excited for or think could be the 15 best by the end of the season. I'm going to give a brief preview and explanation as to why I think they're getting some hype, but before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the top 15 Group of 5 teams for 2025. Okay, so the first team I want to talk about is the Appalachian State Mountaineers. Pretty much each and every year, App State's one of the top Group of 5 programs, and they're personally one of my favorites. Going into the 2025 season, yes, they lost a lot of key players to the transfer portal, but they bring some talented guys back. Both Kanye Roberts and Rashad Dubinion come back at the running back spot, and in terms of the quarterback, they brought in both JJ Cole and AJ Swan, who were both 4-star recruits at one point. One of those two guys will be fine and will do pretty well. And besides 2 games against Boise State and Oregon State, I think App State should be favored in all 10 of their other matchups, and they could easily beat the Beavers too, and I could see App State winning 10 or 11 games this year. The second team I want to talk about is another school that's usually near the top of the Group of 5, and that is the Liberty Flame. Guys like Malik Willis and Caden Salter are gone, but Liberty still has some good players for 2025, including new starting quarterback Ethan Vasco. He had about 2,100 yards last year as a starter for Coastal Carolina, and he follows Jamie Chadwell back over to Liberty. Besides him, there are a couple of other good players on the team, including 2 running backs in Julian Gray and Vaughn Blue, and Reese Smith is getting a good amount of hype as a wide receiver. Joseph Carter is probably the best player on defense, and Liberty's schedule also isn't too terrible. That also for some reason seems to be a trend as they play teams like Maine and Bowling Green, and by far the biggest game on their schedule will be a home game against James Madison on September 20th, and there's honestly a chance that Liberty could go undefeated this year. Obviously there's probably someone that'll trip them up, but Liberty has a really good chance at being potentially the best Group of 5 team in the nation this year. For our third school, we're going to talk about a team that I'm really excited to watch, and that is the Louisiana Cajuns. Billy Napier really helped get Louisiana going, but now headed into 2025, they should still be pretty solid. They bring back a really good right guard in Jax Harrington, have Bill Davis and Xylon Perry back at the running back spots, and the guy I'm most excited for is their quarterback. Walker Howard was a former 5-star recruit at one point, and he came from the Lafayette, Louisiana area, but after not working out at LSU or Ole Miss, he will now go to Louisiana and hope to save his career. That's something I'm going to be really excited to watch, and Louisiana should be favored in pretty much every one of their games. I suspect that they will not be favored against both James Madison and Mizzou, but a 10-win season is possible, but I'd probably say they're going to win 9. For our fourth team, we're going to talk about the Florida Atlantic Owls, who I already did a spotlight on yesterday in my video, but FAU has a new head coach in Zach Kittley, who has won and had a dynamic offense everywhere he has been. As the Owls will have both Caden Veltkamp and Zach Gibson fighting for the job, but I think Veltkamp wins pretty easily. Easton Messer will be one of the top wide receivers in the conference, and it's possible they could pull off a shocker in week 1. They have to travel on the road to play against Maryland, and it would not surprise me if FAU pulls an upset here. It may not happen, but besides that, they also have some entertaining games against Memphis, USF, and Tulane, plus maybe even Yukon, so FAU will have a semi-difficult schedule this year, but I think Zach Kittley and the Owls will be a lot of fun to watch and have a chance at being really good. To wrap out the first third of the teams we're going to talk about, we have the UNLV Rebels. They're probably the second best team in the Mountain West according to most people, and UNLV's in an interesting position. They've had a couple of good years under Barry Odom, are sort of the hot new team in terms of conference realignment, and they have a first-year head coach in Dan Mullen. UNLV has a lot of interesting players, as they have a 3-headed monster at the running back spot in Jaden Thomas, Jalen Glover, and Kevon Lee, and some of these guys are transfers. They got the former 5-star in Denver Harris from Texas A&M, JoJo Earl, and then at the quarterback spot, you'll have both Alex Orji and Anthony Colandrea. UNLV is sort of a band of misfit toys, with Justin Flo being in there too, and if they can all piece together, UNLV should be pretty decent. They play against UCLA in week 3, which I have circled. They also play against Boise, and outside of those 2 games, I think they should be favored in all the rest of them, meaning UNLV could have another 10-win season. For our sixth team, we're going to talk about the San Diego State Aztecs, who are also usually one of the top teams in the Group of 5 each and every year. While they may not have a guy like Donnell Pumphrey this year, San Diego State still should be pretty decent. Lucky Sutton will end up being the starting running back for them this year, and after winning at Kent State, Sean Lewis knows how to build a program. In terms of the quarterback spot, they already named Jaden Denegal, the former Michigan transfer, to be their starter, and he should be solid. I don't necessarily know if San Diego State is going to break the world, but we'll find out a lot in weeks 2 and 3 as they play against both Washington State and Cal. Besides that, games against Boise State and San Jose State should be a lot of fun, and I think San Diego State at minimum probably wins 7 games, but could maybe win up to 10. USF is one of those programs that's trying to lose the Group of 5 status and become a Power 4 team, and after being crossed off of realignment stuff a couple of times, they're probably pretty annoyed by it. Alex Golesh is trying to develop a big-time program at USF, and they have a couple of good returning players, including quarterback Byron Brown, who had a lot of hype last year but was somewhat disappointing. Cartavius Norton is back at the running back spot, and then Jalen Schuler is a really good linebacker. USF that has a schedule that sort of starts out really difficult as they play against number 25 Boise State, number 15 Florida, and number 10 Miami. If they win any of those 3 games, I'll be shocked, but after that, they should be in good shape. The toughest game left on the schedule will be Memphis. I think there's a good chance that USF wins 7 games this year, but they will be better than their record indicates. I know it kind of feels crazy to say, but Yukon has a chance at being one of the better Group of 5 teams in the nation after Jim Mora has been able to rebuild the Huskies program. Yukon is more known as a basketball school, but in recent years they've gotten a little bit better. They bring back some good weapons, including Skylar Bell at receiver, Cam Edwards at the running back spot, and then their quarterback will be Joe Fagano. He ended up beating out former blue chip recruit Nick Evers, and Yukon is just a well-coached team. Their schedule really isn't terribly difficult either, as they play Syracuse, Duke, and Boston College from the Power 4, but it could be a lot worse. My bet is that Yukon probably wins 7 or 8 games, but they have a potential to win 9 or 10 if certain things go their way. Now that they're a new Pac-12 school, Texas State is really excited for the future. Head coach G.J. Kinney has been one of the best in the business the last couple of years, and this season should be no different. Texas State is kind of lacking at the quarterback spot, but there is potential. They have former blue chip quarterback Holden Garner from Auburn, and then former Pitt starter Nate Yarnell, and I'm sure one of those 2 guys will be fine and step up. They have a pretty decent offensive line, and just overall they are coached really well. You don't really know what Texas State's going to do year in and year out, and we'll find out a lot in week 3 when they go on the road and play against Arizona State. I highly doubt they're going to win that game, but it should be fun to watch. Games against James Madison and Louisiana also come to mind, and I bet Texas State could probably win 8 or 9 games again. Arguably the top program in the MAC year in and year out is the Toledo Rockets, as they produce a ton of coaches that end up at the Power 4 level, and even have their fair share of players who go off to the NFL. Toledo's getting a good amount of hype going into 2025, and is led by their star quarterback Tucker Gleason, who's the second best in the conference. Junior Vandross III is also back at receiver, and Toledo is just a lot of fun. Emmanuel McNeil Warren is one of the best safeties in the nation, and Toledo's schedule starts out with a road game against Kentucky. I would not be shocked if they pull that game off in week 1, and from there, they skip Ohio, so I bet their toughest game of the season might be on the road against Washington State. There's a real chance that Toledo could at least win 10 games this year, and if they could pull off wins against Kentucky and Washington State, they could make a run at the college football playoff. Recently, the Memphis Tigers tried to pay $200 million to get into the Big 12 Conference, but it did not end up working for them. I've said for a long time, I feel like Memphis is definitely a Power 4 team, but again, I'm not in charge of this stuff. They should have a pretty good football team in 2025, as while they do lose their star quarterback Seth Hennigan, who's been there for the last 4 years, they have a new guy in Brendan Lewis. I can't stand all the 6th-year stuff, and Brendan Lewis has been around the block, but I guess he's the starter. I would have rather seen their 4-star quarterback Antoine Hill take the field, but he probably will by the end of the season. Memphis starts out with a pretty easy schedule as they play Chattanooga, Georgia State, and Troy, before their first big game comes against Arkansas at home. Besides that, they get both USF and Tulane, but honestly, Memphis may have the best shot of going to the playoff of any team in the conference, as their schedule just really isn't all that terrible. Another team that is always near the top of Conference USA is the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. They've produced a couple of big coaches in recent memory, with guys like Willie Taggart and Jeff Brom, but WKU is hoping to reload and be good this season after losing a couple of players to the portal. Matthew Henry returns at the wide receiver spot, they have George Hart at the running back position, and then in terms of the quarterback, they got Maverick McIver, who at one point was at Texas Tech. There's definitely going to need to be some stuff that comes together for WKU, but on paper, they are always one of the best teams in Conference USA, so it's hard to doubt them. They start out with Sam Houston State and then North Alabama, before we'll find out a lot against Toledo. Their schedule really isn't that terrible, but they do have a road trip against number 9 LSU in late November. Who knows, maybe they pull that off. I doubt it. Another team in the American that has been really dominant the last couple of seasons is the Tulane Green Wave. They're getting plenty of hype going into 2025 as well, as after guys like Michael Pratt and Darian Mensah, they're just going to go ahead and move forward with BYU transfer Jake Retzloff. Besides that, Tulane has a couple of big-time players, including left tackle Derek Graham, Arnold Barnes at the running back position, and then former Alabama 5-star wide receiver Shaz Preston. Those are some of the guys that I'm most excited to watch. And in terms of their schedule, they have a chance to pull off an upset in week 1 as they play against Northwestern. I would not doubt that they win that game as it's at home, and then in week 3 they play against Duke, and week 4 they play Ole Miss. They definitely have a tougher schedule for an American team, as they also have to play against Memphis on the road, but I think Tulane probably will win 8 or 9 games this year, and would continue the trend of them being one of the top group of 5 teams. For our 14th team, we're going to talk about the Ohio Bobcats. I've been especially high on them, as I think they are the best team in the MAC, and that is primarily because of their star quarterback Parker Navarro. I think this guy is extremely good and extremely fun to watch, but unfortunately, Ohio does have a really tough schedule. They definitely are just a good team unit, but in the first month, they play Rutgers, West Virginia, and Ohio State. The West Virginia game is at home, and it would definitely be cool to see that upset get pulled, but it'll be tough to beat them or Rutgers. No offense, but they're not going to beat Ohio State either, but after that, the schedule lightens up, as there's not a single game on the schedule I would pick against. I think there's about a 30% chance they beat Rutgers, a 50% chance they beat West Virginia, and about a 2% chance they beat Ohio State. Still though, Ohio could end up winning 9 games, but if they could pull off some magic, they could maybe go 11-1 and make a run at the playoff. And our last group of 5 team we're going to spotlight today is the James Madison Dukes. They've been tremendous since they joined the FBS, and I don't think anything changes this year. They bring back George Pettaway at the running back spot, Alonzo Barnett III is back at the quarterback spot, and they are just a consistent program that knows how to win. James Madison plays against Louisville in week 2, and that is a tricky game for the Cardinals. There's a chance that JMU could pull off the upset there, and they could also beat Liberty. Besides that, they have games against Louisiana, Texas State, App State, and Wazoo. But knowing them, I feel like they're definitely going to win 10 plus games this year and continue the trend of being one of the better group of 5 programs. But what do you guys think? Today I talked about 15 group of 5 programs that I think will be the best this year, and who did I leave off? Who should I include in part 2? Who's your favorite group of 5 team, and what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.